It's
a
redundant.
hassle.
How long
Yeah.
did you live there?
I lived there for 5 years.
That's a commitment. So
Yeah.
the first nor'easter comes in. What do? You hunker down?
Yeah. Oh, so when I lived there, I taught jujitsu, and I also worked at Trader Joe's. So
They have jujitsu and Trader Joe's there. I
yeah,
had no
so
idea.
that's the
So I'm
first thing
learning
I
as we
did,
speak. That's pretty awesome.
Like when I, when we decided we were going to move out there, that's the first thing I did was found like a gym that was awesome. And actually, if I don't know if you know who Amanda Buckner is.
I heard the name. Yeah.
Okay, so her and her husband own the academy there. J-Jack, he also was a professional fighter. But so once I found out that their facility was there, I was like, oh, done. Like,
Easy
okay,
transition.
okay, yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Like-minded people.
yeah, so I mean, and their facility is awesome. He's like one of the best instructors I've ever had. You wouldn't think like Maine, awesome jujitsu,
Yeah.
but like they changed a lot of like my life. Period. Anyway, but
No, that's an interesting topic because your approach to jiu-jitsu can be so different. That's what we kind of discover in Gym Crashers, is that we visit other places, even though we're all in Southern California for the most part right now that we visited. People approach jiu-jitsu different. We can see the same technique 100 different
Oh, yeah.
ways. You know.
Yep.
yeah, like just kind of going off a little bit on
No, absolutely.
them, like so J-Jack and Amanda, like they're just as individual people, super amazing. Like I was heartbreaking when we moved out here, only because I had to leave the gym and like essentially like my family there, which was weird because when I first moved out there, I was like, oh, I'm never gonna find this like great connection like I did in the gym in New Mexico. Like it was just like sad, and then I got there and it was like they were so awesome. And the way that he teaches is like I've never had an instructor teach like him. Like, there's certain people when they tell you, like how to do a certain technique, and you just are like, what? You don't get it.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what. He had a way of explaining things that like the light bulb would just go on.
I love that.
And the way that he taught, I mean, he could teach a technique to like the most like uncoordinated person in the world, and
That's a talent and an art form.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
their facility there is like a hidden gem.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't know. You couldn't ask for more in a facility, and it's like you wouldn't think you would move to like the tip of the United States and find this like badass gym.
Sure.
That you do.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a ton of tough people that train there, and it's like a lot of those people there's not much else out there, so that's all they do.
Yeah. No, we come from a very small gym here in Southern California, but it's a small little pocket of really hardcore guys that throw, and do their thing. So I fully understand. Any notable fighters come out of that dojo or gym?
That like made it really, really big.
Anybody that even local that made a name for themselves?
Yeah,
who might
Paul
have heard of?
Gortman, Eli.
It's not the Gortman fisherman, is it?
No.
The fish sticks guy?
No.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, they were
You
some
know.
of the Josh Watson. Like I think he's in Vegas now.
Yeah.
But,
So
those-
people on the way up a little
like,
bit.
and they're
You don't
They're-
need that. You don't
Yeah.
need to have the best of the best to be really good at what you do.
But
It's a byproduct that
almost
eventually
did,
happens.
because Amanda was like ranked third in the world.
That's pretty
at
awesome.
Her time fighting at 135, and like I don't know what J-Jack was ranked, but like they have like a decent amount of fights under their belts, and they fought like top, ranked people.
That's pretty awesome.
Like when I started fighting, that's where I first started fighting, and they introduced me to like actually like getting my feet wet in the MMA world. And
So
like,
what was that like? So what did they do specifically? Bring you to fights? Bring you to other camps?
it was kind of interesting how it all kind of worked out, and I'll never forget. So after training, I was like working out. I was running on the treadmill, and some of the guys that were scheduled to fight were doing their fight preparation. They were doing their rounds, and I was watching. I'm running on the treadmill. I'm watching, and Jay came up to me and he asked me if I've ever thought about fighting. And I was like, like, of course, I think naturally when you're in a jiu-jitsu school, it's usually like jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, or Muay Thai or whatever.
They mix it in
also
some way, yeah.
involved. So you're around it.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me if I had ever thought about it, and I was like, well, yeah. And he's like, well, haven't you ever like tried to pursue it or whatever? And I was like, I don't know. I was just kind of like, oh, I didn't know what to say because I just didn't. And he was like, well, he's like, if you don't do it because like you genuinely don't want to fight, like, and it's something that you're just not interested in, then don't. But if it's something you've thought about and you're not doing it because of fear, then you need to effing get in there.
That's right.
And I was like, I was totally speechless. And then I went home that night and I was like, he's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was stopping me? I had plenty of opportunity, like, to say, let's do this, at my other gym or whatever. So the next day I went in and I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it scares the crap out of you. And you're like, oh my God, I'm really going to do this. And then you take that. It's like you put your foot in and you can never take your foot out.
That's true. I think the analogy of drowning is an accurate one in that when you first start really rolling and you're rolling with upper belts, they can take the breath out of you, and you do that a lot. So you learn how to swim or you sink, right? Or you give up. A lot of people give up. I mean, that's the one thing that we all probably know is that from the day we started until even now or even halfway, the revolving door of people that you meet. A very interesting thing, And they still have their jiu-jitsu with them. I mean, they don't lose everything because they walk away, but they don't continue to grow.
Yeah.
So it's that interesting journey that you go on, as you're learning, Yeah,
I think it's one of the coolest things. Like, I life brings you different things or whatever, but I think that the best thing is to always bounce around and get to, like, other gyms or at least try to train as many different facilities as possible. Because I used to be, like, super kind of closed-minded in the beginning, like, when I first started training. I was like, and now, of course, I think everybody goes through that. Like, you're super loyal to your gym. You don't want to, train anywhere else. And then, like, you just don't do it out of respect or loyalty. But then, like, for me, I moved, so I had to find a new facility. And then I moved again, and I've trained now at, like, I don't know how many different places. And I'm so grateful for that because, one, I've met so many amazing people that are just, like, they want to help you get better, or they have, like, a different way of teaching, and
sure.
your like knowledge like expands so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, for me as an instructor, like, I've learned from so many different people that it's made me like 10 times better as an instructor.
I can see that.
So it's like, I think expanding out and venturing out is like one of the best things you can do for your game.
Yeah, and I watched you explain things as you performed with Miguel and did the Technique of the Week for one of the shows. And, yeah, you're very well spoken. You break things down, and it helps people acknowledge what they need to do and position themselves and to complete something. It's really, it doesn't have to be rocket science,
yeah,
right?
Totally.
Yeah. But I think also if, you communicate, I guess, with your home school, if you would. You don't feel so, hey, I got invited to go over there and train,
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I think we should talk about that subject a little.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool when you're at a gym that, like, they're open-minded about that kind of stuff, and they don't mind you going or whatever. Because I know some gyms are like,
like how he
that.
explained our school is super small. It's super tight knit.
Yeah.
We're very tight knit.
And our instructor is like so old school. Like he actually
is old school because he came
yeah.
from the school before it was
Right.
MMA.
Yeah, but anyway, so he would explain to us that, like, the whole back in my day kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You're kind of seen like
Yeah.
like a turncoat if you go somewhere else and you're cross training with all these other people, but like everything, you got to get with the times. And
it's not a secret anymore.
It's not
like
a secret no more. Yeah.
There's no super secret technique that one gym has and another.
But at
gym
the same time, I can
doesn't,
understand where he's coming from. Because there is there's been falling outs and stuff of people who, you don't get along with everybody, and there's always
it's the hurt
always
business,
some sort of drama politic.
Yeah,
it's the hurt business, man. It's gonna happen, right? More
but
so
at the
than
same
anywhere
time,
else.
the way I explain it to some people is like, if I, if I tell my wife, like, oh, hey, me and a coworker are gonna get some food, whatever. All right, cool. But then if she sees in my phone, oh, thanks for dinner, and it happens to be a chick coworker, I mean, don't you think she's gonna flip her?
Yes.
You know, lose her shit.
In fact, I know your wife, and you're going to be in trouble.
And you're dead.
Yes.
You
But
are now dead.
I don't know if that's a good analogy, but
It is actually.
you know, but
You're
but
not
you know what I'm
fully
saying?
disclosing everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you would
Communication
tell,
is key, for
yeah,
sure.
you know, hey, I got invited to go here. Is that cool? You know, you
Yeah.
cool with that? I mean, was he gonna say no? You know, but yeah, do your thing. You know, thanks
I
for
was
telling
always
me.
big on that. We actually don't do a lot of cross training, or we didn't, I should say, years ago. But every time I went on vacation, whether it be Hawaii, Florida, Jamaica, whatever I did, I'd always tell my instructor, hey, man, they got a school there, I'm going to roll. Just so you know. He's all, I don't care what you do. You're a grown man, go roll. Just don't bring nothing back. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Ringworm, staff, who knows,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's all out there.
It's a
So,
different strain of staff.
and that could be a big,
Kidding.
exactly. That's absolutely quite possible. But, you know, you got to protect yourself.
That's right.
But it brings up a valid point. If you're an academy, training center, dojo owner, you don't want the rest of your students all of a sudden afflicted with this epidemic that does happen on mats. You know, we
Yeah.
clean all that we can, but there might be one dirty son of a gun that
There always
right?
is somebody.
it's a
that you
high
have
school
to, like-
wrestler that comes in, or you know, some guy that rolls at
Like-
3 different schools and doesn't tell us.
Or a dude who doesn't wipe right, you know,
Well-
whatever.
Oh my God,
could
that's
be.
the worst.
Yes. You get
Like
a breeze.
personal hygiene, especially for jujitsu, you're just like,
Yo, hey, no.
please.
Everybody
come
tells me like, you
on.
take a shower before you train, you're gonna
He
get
does.
sweaty anyways. I'm like,
Like, are you kidding me?
And it's a
so then why
pleasure to live
even
with
why
him.
even wipe then? You know, because I'm gonna like take a shower later. I might as well
Yeah.
just put.
You're
You know.
like, it's a close contact
Well
sport.
put. Well put. I like that. No,
You
it's a
know?
good point. And he takes 3-4 showers a day. I'm quite amazed at him. You know,
That's
it's really
great.
cool.
I
Yeah.
mean, I wish some people that I used to
They
train
need to
with
do it.
would take at least one. Great.
Oh, there's always the guy that comes and opens the dojo with the instructor, and he stays all day and train 4 times, and then you got to roll with him in the same clothes he's
And,
dried
yeah.
up in and got wet and
his
dried up
gi is
again.
like his gi is already soaking
It's
wet, and you're
rigid,
just
too.
doing like
It's a white gi and it's
You're-
green and yellow.
You're just doing the drills, and you're already like you're wet, but it's because of his sweat.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my god.
How quick do we all get used to that though? Because it just happens.
True.
More so than an average person.
Like
would.
after a while, you're just like,
well, I can
whatever.
understand people who get off work and don't have time to go home. And,
Dude.
But it's like, dude, there's baby wipes. Come on, for the
Yeah.
love, you know. And it's like,
For the love of
Clean
God.
yourself
you
up a
know,
little,
yeah,
right?
you
yeah,
know, and
yeah. Do your best.
I
That's
understand you
hilarious.
guys
Brush
can't
your
get to
teeth.
a shower. Yeah, brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Use
the
baby
basics.
wipes or
You
something.
would
you
think
know.
that all of these things are like pretty common sense, but they're so not.
It's laziness
It's
too.
so bad.
Well, if you're fortunate enough to get the cream of the crop, people coming in, yeah, then it is commonplace for people to do this. But fighting often brings guys right out of prison, guys right out of construction. You know, you just don't know, right?
Right.
So you just don't know
They
who's
have
walking in the
hepatitis
door,
C.
right?
Yeah.
I've seen it all. We've literally had them walk in the door, so you don't know who you're going to get.
Yeah.
They usually don't stick,
true.
clearly, but you know they bring something. Everybody wants to test their skills at some time, and they typically don't walk into a cage. They'll walk into
No,
a
they'll
place
they'll
to
try
train.
to do it at the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I really appreciate the gyms that have like the rules.
Yeah,
Especially like the cleanliness rules.
that's an
And
important
you're like,
one.
Sweet. Because that like kind of gives you a little bit of comfort that like at least everybody that trains there kind of knows that you need to have your toenails clipped and your gi has to be clean, proper hygiene.
Yeah.
Come on.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I think no matter how much they put a sign though,
There's always going to be some people.
Nobody.
If you have
They don't
small
read.
backs, you have small
Not everybody
backs.
reads, right?
Yeah.
So, oh, there's a sign. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, our deodorant too. Put it on.
What gets me though is that does this person not? How can you not smell it yourself?
I think self-awareness is something that people lack, right?
I don't know,
I
dude.
mean,
I get
like,
home
how
from
do you-
work and I take my shirt off, you know, and it stinks. I
But
mean,
again, you're a
I'm
clean
not a
freak.
stinky guy.
You're
like,
a clean freak, though.
No, I know,
admit.
but I mean, dude, I'm like sweating and shit, and
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I get dirty. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in the
Like
sun
how do you
all
not
day.
know? You like,
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
dude,
I'm like,
like
you
I know
take-
when I'm ripe.
You
When
know, like,
I don't
I take my work shirt off, and then you can smell it on your undershirt. I'm like, oh god, you know, and I'm like,
A few years ago, when I was a much younger man, I rolled in on a Saturday morning, and Miguel says, "Oh my God, Dondo, you smell like my dad." And I never slept the night before. I drank through the night. I was sober, came to train. He's like, "You smell like my dad." I knew what he meant. I smelled like the bottom of a beer can. You know what I mean? I was like a fire-breathing dragon trying to roll with him.
sorry, pops.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Pop
yeah.
likes an empty beer can here and there. It's all good.
Well, after he's been going at it all weekend, he just
I know the smell quite well. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
Yeah. Well, New England was better to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it was like I loved New Mexico. It was hard to leave because I'd never lived anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was amazing. Like Maine was crazy in the winters got a little bit.
What year was this that you lived there?
I moved there in 2010.
Oh, that's recent.
Okay.
Man.
Yeah.
That's not too far back.
So I was there, and like I said, it was great. It was I miss it actually sometimes because it's so beautiful there, especially in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an amazing
Like a beautiful place it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't spend a lot of time, as much time as you did.
But you visited.
But
you
I
actually
visited.
drove across.
Yeah,
and
I drove
made it to
cross
Maine?
country.
Mhm.
So when I graduated high school, this was 2004. Instead of like doing a walk and all that and getting your diploma, I'm like, fuck this. And me and a bunch of friends just piled in a car, and we just drove. And we got out there in like 48 hours. Like we just drove nonstop.
Did you have money?
No.
Wow.
I think I had like 20 bucks. I swear to God. I think. I'm lying. I had 60 bucks. Like 40 of it went to gas, and then the rest was just for the week, right?
Jesus.
So we
Oh
drove
my
cross
God.
country.
That's like a bean and cheese burrito a day.
Yeah, no. But this is
And they don't have
2004.
that there.
Yeah. That's no. Not
Where are
at
you
that
gonna
time.
find
Not
that?
at that time.
No.
No, that's what I'm saying. Not at that time. So, I think the first place that was kind of trippy was we stopped to pump gas, in like a border town on the Kentucky side, and we went inside, to prepay and get something to drink, and a friend of mine at the time, his name was Nelson. He's a black kid, and everybody's jaw just dropped when him and I walked into the store. So we paid, and the guy wouldn't even talk to us. We're like, 25 on 2 and this Gatorade here. And he would just dog us the whole time. We paid, and we're like, the other guy was pumping gas. We're like, dude, let's get out of here before they lynch us. Like, let's go. So we drove from Kentucky to like Virginia or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Virginia to like D.C.
It's close. I
Which,
can
by
see
the
that.
way, D.C.'s a toilet.
Yeah.
But,
So we've heard.
Oh my
The guy
God.
Trump lives there.
the biggest anyways, I'll keep that my opinion to myself. Anyways, so from there we went our way upwards towards I'm losing my geography now, but I think
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
I can see
Philadelphia,
that.
which was our
Philadelphia's next,
actual
right?
destination.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and this is how broke we were, so we couldn't afford a place to sleep at, but we brought sleeping bags. So there was like this country club, and we hopped the fence and we slept on the tennis court, like on because it was like
on the
Yeah.
grass.
it wasn't wet.
It's
or
clean.
anything like that. It's clean.
Or
Yeah. So then from there, I have to say Connecticut was probably like one of the coolest.
Now you're
like,
getting to New England. So yeah, you hopped over a little bit.
Connecticut was cool, and I always told my wife Jessica, I'm like, if I had a lot of money, I'd buy a cottage in Connecticut.
I could
you
see
know?
that.
Yeah.
The Perez family on Mystic.
yeah, pretty much.
I like
Billy
it.
Brown family there.
I like it. Somebody has to flip tortillas there. Come on.
So then, so speaking of which, so by this time, us being California natives, we're like, let's just go somewhere and get a burrito, right? That was our thing, just get a burrito. So we drive around, and we drove accidentally into Rhode Island, and
Which is a very small place.
yeah, and we couldn't find a Mexican food place for the life of us. So the closest thing we found was a Dominican restaurant. So I walk in.
It's not even close.
Whoa.
I guess they speak Spanish, and that makes them in
Close
this.
enough, yeah.
Plantains and
It's something.
arroz con
It said
pollo.
tamales on the window.
Did
so,
it? No.
Yeah.
Are they
So I
real
go-
tamales or just box of red hot tamales?
No, it was like wrapped in like banana leaves. And
Oh,
stuff.
I do like those.
But-
I'm a
So
sucker
I
for
asked
that.
the lady, I'm like, hey, is there a place where I could just get a burrito? And she was like, a what? I'm like, a burrito. Like burritos and tacos and stuff like that. And she's like, you guys aren't from around here, are you? I'm like, no, yeah, we are.
No.
And she's like, no, you're not. She's like, where are you guys from? I'm like, California. And she's like, oh, dude. She's like, there's like a Taco Bell down the street. And I thought she was like,
That'll work.
oh, yeah. And I'm like, no, like a burrito place, like a hole in the wall. And she's like, there's no burritos here. And it was
no
like,
burritos.
like you're like ripping your hair out.
Yeah,
you
I
know.
probably would have freaked
What a
out.
thing to say. I'm sorry, sir, but there
There's
are no burritos
there's no
here.
such thing as burritos.
We-
So, that
You're like,
sucked.
it's beans, meat, cheese, and rice.
That's it,
And
yeah.
a tortilla.
But
Good story.
yeah, it was okay. I personally don't think I could live there, but
No.
not really.
But clam chowder and lobster bisque,
Yeah.
and
Oh.
right off the hook.
Oh yeah, lobster all day.
Yeah. You
And
can go
it's
nuts.
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's cheap.
Just crack it
In
open.
New Mexico, you get a surf and turf for like $62. There, it's like
Yeah.
But New Mexico, like Las Cruces, has
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like
yeah.
killer
Poblano
chili
chilies, yeah.
chili
Oh, yeah.
festival thing
I
in
love
like the
that.
summer.
Let's do
Mhm.
that.
They
We're
have
on a
the-
mission.
In Santa Fe, they have the wine and chili festival.
Oh my God.
Oh, bomb.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be my friend after about 2 hours of that.
Speaking of, I know you guys were talking about earlier about doing cemetery kind of like visiting.
We got another show that we're gonna do. Yeah,
Grave
absolutely.
robbing.
Great,
Just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
I would definitely
Salem,
be down.
Salem, Massachusetts is actually pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been.
Well,
there
they
or
did
not,
the
but-
witch thing there, right? They
Yeah.
killed a
Yeah,
bunch
Yeah,
of people.
yeah, but it's pretty trippy.
Or is that Salem, Oregon? No, it is
It's
Massachusetts.
Mass.
Massachusetts. Yeah.
Right on.
But other than that, you know.
So what was cool? Did you go on a witch hunt?
No,
Or
I
a
mean,
witch
just,
find?
it was just like everything you picture of like the old ass like headstones
And it's all gray
it's all
out.
gray
It's
out,
all,
yeah,
like
yeah.
creepy looking.
And it's super foggy. It gets really foggy.
Yeah.
Like at least the time I went during the summer, but for some reason it was like it got like
It's up
thick
north,
fog,
man.
You know what I mean?
You're up
Yeah.
north. It's
Yeah.
cold up there.
But yeah,
You liked it.
East Coast is
It's,
okay.
yeah, East Coast is pretty
alright.
good. I
It's
mean,
all right.
Like,
That's pretty cool
I-
It's pretty
experience,
good,
though.
but it's all right.
You made it. You made it all the way back.
I'm not a huge fan of like winter, so
Neither
I'm
am
a
I.
bitch
like
when it comes
I
to the
like
cold.
the cold
I
in
don't.
short spurts.
Yeah.
Like it's
I
cool
don't.
maybe if you're visiting and you have like a fire and you're maybe going snowboarding or something.
No, since I'm from
Or
here, I've skied in my
something,
shorts. Yeah.
But like
I have. I go to Big Bear and I ski
I
in my
don't
shorts.
really, like,
Kick off the chocolates and get on the skis.
everyday cold, like Maine cold is like the kind of cold that like hurts your flesh.
Yeah.
Like your skin hurts. It's so freaking cold. It's like awful. God forbid you get your like clothes wet and then you're freezing for the rest of the day. Like nah.
I have to tell you, I didn't know what cold was until I was probably in my early 20s, probably like 2021, and I had been married, had my son already.
Time
and-
ago.
Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. So we got in our little Honda Civic and we made it all the way to Lake Tahoe, Reno, Nevada area. And I went all that way without rolling down the window, of course, and we didn't need to get gas because a Honda Civic will make it all the
Oh
way.
yeah.
So
Good old
I
Honda.
pretty much dressed the same way, a pair of board shorts, my chunkless, and a T-shirt. I got out of the car, and my bones hurt. It was bone chilling.
Like
I got in a sleeping bag, and I didn't move for like 4 days. I was like, I'm not getting out of the sleeping bag. It hurt. Like, I didn't know what
Yeah.
cold was. And I skied, my childhood and, went to the mountains and stuff. It was not that cold.
Seattle cold to me was really cold.
Bitter.
Yeah.
San Francisco
hated that
gets
shit.
bitter, too. Good Lord.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah,
cities,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
They hurt your bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no fun.
No.
No, I'm a bitch
It's
when
rough.
it comes to the
So,
cold. dude.
so how
Yeah,
do
me
you
too.
train through that? So you rush to the car, you
Yeah.
scrape the windshield, which we don't have to do here because you have a
get your
scraper
snow
in your car.
shovel.
Yeah, like I always like when I first moved there.
I mean, it's a ritual.
I didn't really like everybody has snow blowers, and
That means something
coming
else here.
From, yeah. right?
Sorry, you threw me off.
Totally.
I apologize to our viewers.
But you don't understand, like like why does everybody own a snowblower? Because to me, that would be kind of like
It's indicative of a lot of snow.
an investment that's kind of like
Yeah, why?
why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then after you have two options. You can invest in a snowblower or a shovel.
That
And
too.
shoveling your car is the worst.
Oh.
like you have to dig your car out of like 4 feet of snow.
It's
That
rough.
takes so many hours to do, and it's cold, and sometimes like the sun's
Damp.
not even out, and you're just like, my life sucks right now.
And
don't
I
like
hated
it.
going to the gym at 5 a.m. today because I was freezing. But I'm like dressed like this. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my
but-
God, it's freezing. Turn on the heater.
Lucky
like
if you
55.
if you train on a day like that, you already dug out your car to go to work or something. So, then
So,
you go to
like,
the gym and you
Does
like
the gas in your car ever freeze?
no.
No gas doesn't freeze. I don't think. It's like alcohol, right?
Oh.
You put vodka in the freezer, right?
Yeah,
Won't do
yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Nothing
Oh,
happens.
he knows all about that.
A
No,
little,
I'm
bit,
just
a little bit of he knows his vodka. I know his wife.
Well, I figure you have to put a bunch of antifreeze in there to not.
You
get
do
it
for the
to-
radiator, not for the gas.
You
cylinder.
have to like go out
you
to
know what
your
I mean.
car and
put
turn it
antifreeze in
on
your
like
in
an
your gas.
hour before you leave, and then start digging out your car.
Imagine having enough gas to turn your car on for an hour. Like we've scraped at times. Like,
That's why,
dude,
like-
I got like 5 minutes to get to the gas station. I guess it's not going to melt. You know?
Yeah.
Somebody give me a blowtorch so I can get there. I'm gonna blow the window off.
I was lucky. I had a Honda Civic, the hybrid.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, you were in.
yeah, I was in.
I love
It
it.
was a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and like training, the gym was typically pretty damn cold until obviously they turn on the heat. But you
You guys have
you'd
a
be wearing
heater?
socks and
Yeah, we
like
don't have a heater.
leggings and like some people like I would usually train even if we were doing no gi. I'd wear leggings and my gi pants.
Sure.
Like
That's when gis come in handy. You never take
Yeah.
it off, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, yeah, we're at gi school. Absolutely.
yeah. It's like oof.
We did Miguel's garage a few times. We were trying to start our own Sunday morning thing, and Miguel's garage is cold in the mornings. It was in Buena Park, and
I was given
but I didn't give a crap back then. Like now, I'd be
like
worried
our
about
place
it.
got
I'm
like
"Fuck
yeah
this."
like new mats, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, what do you guys need to do with those old ones? They're like, throw them out. I'm like, okay. So I like a friend of ours who used to train there a while back. He had a truck. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm gonna fucking take them. So I just took.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I
He
put
was a
them in my
genius.
garage, and we used to like just get a small group of heads together and
It was
roll
fun.
and stuff. It was
That's
pretty fun.
awesome.
But it was like really fucking cold. Like,
But we actually did it. Like we didn't get in there and just mess around. Like we did warm ups. We did a little technique, and then we rolled for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I
That's
mean,
cool.
there's a
But
lot
then,
of
like,
dedication.
The
There-
mats got like because they were wrestling mats, so they got
Oh.
like
jacked
rock
up.
hard.
Yeah. Oh God.
No,
they were
yeah, yeah.
rock
No,
hard.
they were rock
That's what I was
hard,
going to
and
say
then they
about
were
our
cold.
dojo too in the morning is that they are rock hard. And then if you open the back door and the sun beats on them, you can fry an egg on it. So you get rolled up onto that face, you're going to lose half your flesh. You know?
But yeah, no, training in the cold is not fun.
No,
I don't like it.
Or on a
I'm not a
burning
fan.
mat.
No.
I actually liked like when we would do competition preparation when I was training in New Mexico, they would turn on the heater and shut the door. So they would
That's
like,
what our place feels like sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that like came from or whatever, but
Wrestling.
yeah, wrestling because there was a lot of guys that used to wrestle there,
Sure.
but it was like torture.
Yeah.
But I
You
mean,
actually get used to it to where
get
you just
used to it,
breathe
and
it.
then
You do,
you
yeah, yeah.
feel better
Yeah.
training like that. And it actually was harder for me to like start doing things without like a hoodie on and layers.
It's good for you.
So
To this day, I still roll with a hoodie on in the summer
He does actually. Looks
under
like,
my
Wow.
cape. Yeah,
really,
yeah.
I just got used to
Assassin's
it.
Creed.
yeah. No, really, I got used
No,
to
really,
it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's- I don't know.
And in fact, he's wore the same hoodie for about the whole time I've known him. I don't know how it
Ew.
There's
survives. but he's-
holes. It's
Oh.
all
So,
ripped.
he's-
I've resewed it.
He
Like,
washes it. You know this
yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
he's a clean
But-
freak.
Yeah, he
You
uses
know,
that
that's good.
fabulosa.
Yeah.
Smells good.
It does actually.
you know?
Yeah, but whatever.
That's
You know.
good. So you both fought. Did you have to fight outdoors, and was that a predicament for you? I'll start with him.
Oh no.
It was kind of
warm.
no, it was half open though.
It was warm.
So the sun
I
didn't
fought in
beat
You
in,
Vegas.
fought MMA too?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
fun in a cage.
Nice.
But
so it wasn't an issue.
No.
No,
It
it was
actually
nighttime.
Really nice.
That's right. It was a great venue.
was really-
What's it
yeah.
called? Something station.
The cannery.
The Cannery. That's it.
I
Not
think
the
so.
station. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. North end of Vegas by the Speedway.
The dump of Vegas. The
I
armpit
thought it
of
was
Vegas.
cool, man. And that
No, it
place
was
you
cool.
stayed at was cool. The whole
Yeah.
place was cool. Don't let him talk down on that. You had a great experience, Cannery.
I like dumpy places. I mean, I
Exactly.
like hanging out in East LA.
We prefer all that.
Oh, yeah.
East LA's not a dump anymore.
Well, it's-
The better parts.
Yeah, well. But actually, the whole turning the heat up.
Yeah.
Like that was. They did that, a couple times with me and the guy. It was me and this other guy named Anthony at our school who fought, and it actually helped. Like, I think at the time I was like 150. I'll just say 155 or something like that, and the weight wasn't coming off, and I was getting really
Oh.
pissed off, and like I was like, "What the fuck,"
It's not like you can switch to just protein because you're a vegetarian, so it's
yeah.
difficult. It's a lot of freaking soy.
yeah, it just wasn't coming off, dude.
You know,
It's
peanuts.
all that estrogen in it or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
dude.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But yeah, so they locked us in like this small room, and they turned the heat up, and then all our partners that were like rotating in were just
Yeah.
like, "Can we open the door?" You know. And after a while, we're just like, "Dude, shut up! Like, just
do it.
Just deal with it.
Yeah, this is gonna happen.
But it helped because like afterwards, you know, you peel all the layers off, and then it was like 151. So I'm like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
almost there.
Yeah,
Um,
you lose it
Ugh.
without trying.
yeah.
Cutting
So
weight
that was pretty
sucks.
cool.
Yeah.
I
You
was
did it.
fortunate. I only had to cut like 8 pounds.
It
so.
seemed effortless for you. It seemed to peel off once you got past the hurdle of starting to lose.
Well, I felt really good like the night before.
Mhm.
Like I tried to do all 8, right? Just
Yeah.
get like on point. And,
Fiber
And
helped,
it-
if I
yeah.
remember correctly. Fiber.
yeah,
You start taking
that helped a
spoonful
lot.
of
Yeah.
that, yeah. Get
And
things
then-
moving.
But
Yeah, it helps,
like
man.
the
You
night
can take a
before,
good
like
one
I
in the
felt
morning.
I
Right?
felt really good. I like ran on a treadmill. I did like I like about 4 or 5 miles.
Wow.
Oh, and then on top of that, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I'm a huge Dodgers fan, so they were in the playoffs.
That's right. I was
And I
with
was like,
you.
I had my headphones on, plugged into the treadmill things. I was at the gym,
Oh, you were just
and
watching
they
the
like,
game.
and I was like screaming and yelling and stuff, and everyone's like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" But anyways, so yeah, so
Vince
I had,
Scully was
like-
still calling the games then.
I think so, yeah,
He was.
yeah. But I had like a rubber suit, you know, and then like you know, a long sleeve, and then the leggings underneath, and then on top of that, I had my gi pants on, and then.
Makes me cringe.
But the whole nothing like not the all of the weight came off. Like I was at 148 or 47.
But you didn't look sickly like some people.
No,
did.
no.
He
I
wore-
still felt
he
great.
wore it
though.
well.
No, I
yeah.
still felt great. And I like you know, our friend Nick who was helping me cut weight. He's like, dude, let's just stop right here and we'll just you know finish it up tomorrow
You were
morning. I'm
cutting
like,
to
no, dude, like
145?
yeah. So I'm like, no, like let's keep going. I feel good. I feel really good.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, just take it easy. So I'm like, okay, fine.
And he's a medical background guy, so he knows.
Yeah, he knew. And then afterwards, my counterpart, he made weight really easy. It all just fell out, you know, came off of him.
But he's like a long distance bike rider. And He
Yeah.
does a lot of stuff.
So he, you know, he's like, hey man, let's go to my house. We'll just jump in the jacuzzi and we'll just hang out and watch the rest of the game. So we sat in there for like about 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden, like my hair's wet and my face is wet, and I go like this, and I'm like, it's just sweat, you know.
Yeah.
So I jump out and I wipe off, and I jump on the scale, and I got down to 144, which was, you know,
Pretty amazing.
That was pretty
feeling.
cool.
You're
Yeah.
like,
Jacuzzis are amazing like that, huh?
But I think, you know, just making the weight was. I didn't actually really. Like, I don't know if worry is the right word, but like the fight itself didn't really concern me too much.
It's
was
the
I
weight
just
cut.
yeah, it was just the weight.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make the weight. That's
Yeah.
it.
The fight is the fun part. The weight cut is like
Yeah,
I can see that for you.
the shit that's like you said, like
Yeah.
the
that shit
worry,
sucks.
if you will,
Yeah.
like the stressor is the weight cut.
I mean, not just for myself, but like, I mean, nobody wants to go be the guy that didn't make weight and you look like an idiot. And
Yeah,
all
it's not
this stuff,
professional.
you know? Yeah.
You want to be your best that day.
I mean, I
right?
understand shit happens. You know, I'm not knocking nobody, but just you know.
Probably-
I've missed weight before, but that so I've.
It's a whole
had-
set of other worms for ladies,
I've
though, right?
had 2 fights at 115, and
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and there were supposed to be 3, but I couldn't do the last 5 pounds, so it was at 120. But oh my god, like it for me, like I healthy walk around 135. So, you know, I was cutting fairly easy to like 125 with like no problem. And then some opportunities came up for 115. And I was at like, I cut to 120 for my first pro fight, which was fairly smooth. And, you know, the opportunity came up to do 115. I was like, well, it was all right at 120. It's 5 more pounds. I'll try it. Oh my God. You should look up those pictures of me and be like,
We'll pull them up on another show.
Gross. like,
Yeah.
like, oh my God. It was literally like the hardest cuts I've ever had to do.
Well, like my wife has a bunch of pictures of me from weigh-ins, and if like I took a picture of me before, right, and like I was all chunky or whatever, and at least I thought I was. I'm like, oh my God, right? And then the next picture of me, I was like on the scale, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like
You're all like sunk in and
Holocaust
gross.
victim.
and like yeah,
You're like trying to smile, but you can't. You look like a skeleton.
yeah. Oh, I mean, like my legs were like, I mean, I don't have like, I'm not like a big man to begin with, but
Yeah.
still, I was just kind of like,
You're sunken in.
whoa, you know. But yeah, no, I was just glad I made the weight, and I came in underweight. So, but even at 45, I still felt kind of small. I mean, the dude I
you used
fought
to walking
wasn't-
around heavier. That's
yeah,
all.
probably.
You know.
Because even the dude I fought, he wasn't much bigger than I was, but
It was a good match.
yeah, it was cool.
Came from a legit school, Extreme Couture, so
Yeah.
Nice.
it wasn't like it was a mismatch. The guy he
Oh
brought
yeah,
it too.
and then
You
the
know,
thing that
it's
like,
good when they match it up right.
Yeah.
a cool thing, and then a bummer later on that I realized that Robert Follis guy was his instructor,
His coach, yeah.
and he came up to me like after the fight and talked to me for like a few hours and like bought me a beer afterwards,
Nice.
and then like
That's good
I don't know if you
sportsmanship.
guys remember he like committed suicide like not too long ago.
Yeah, I heard
or something
about
like that. So
Yeah.
that kind of sucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
You hear about that a
sad.
lot, but it's in
Yeah.
everything. It doesn't have any correlation with
no,
with
yeah,
training
but
or
still, I mean, it's
jiu-jitsu
just
or-
like you talk to him and you.
Yeah, it's
just-
a terrible
yeah,
thing.
it's
Like,
like
it
a.
just-
It almost affects you personally. 'Cause
Yeah.
You had that
Yeah,
experience.
that
with that
connection,
person.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine, his students and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, but
It's terrible.
yeah, well, it sucks. But what are you
Yeah.
gonna do?
No,
You know?
what can you do? But your fights, anything crazy about weather or outdoors or anything like that, or they always kept you indoors?
Yeah, they were always indoors. The first fights I had, and what's crazy is that so fights were never sanctioned in Maine, and the first time I fought, that was the first time they sanctioned MMA fights in Portland, Maine.
Is
So-
that a good or a bad thing?
It was a great thing.
It
was
brought
like-
rules.
was
It brought
kind of-
structure. What did it do?
It was the first time MMA was there in Maine, so I was a part of. I was
pioneering it.
Yeah,
That's pretty
me and another teammate of mine. We were the first female fights in Portland, so it was kind of like a little piece of history that
Mhm.
we got to be a part of,
Pretty cool.
which was pretty awesome. But yeah, I never got to fight in anything like that. Like the kind of, I guess, weird area. It was kind of it was kind of like a old what do you call it, where they have rodeos or whatever.
What
and
do
it
they
was-
call those? I know what you're talking about.
Like
Yeah.
okay,
An
Kinda like
indoor
a-
place though, and I think that it was that, and then it was like an ice skating rink, and then they used that to
kind of
host
like
the
that
fights.
Cow Palace place in San Francisco.
Yeah, or like a
That
country
was
fair
kinda
kind of
like-
place.
Yeah.
If you
a
want to
fairground
put
sort
a
of a thing.
weird,
I think that's just a name, the Cow
place.
Palace.
Is
I
that
don't.
what it
I don't think it's actually
No,
like
I
a
thought
rodeo
that's what
place.
they- I thought that's what
It's
that-
a
that's what they
legitimate
called
like
it that.
venue for. No, I mean, maybe in the past. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But every damn good band out of San Francisco plays the Cow Palace.
Yeah,
I think even
yeah.
Kiss played there in
wow.
1977 or
Yeah.
79. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
All the thrashers all tell me this. All the aging thrashers that are a little bit even above my age, or they tell me the Cow Palace is where they saw all those early bands. So
I could have
That's pretty
swore that
cool.
like
Yeah.
I thought it was like a rodeo place, so they just stuck with a Cow Palace name or something.
I don't know exactly. We'll have to look it up, and that's a future show. We're going to talk about the Cow Palace and the shows that were there.
Nice, nice. So,
But-
do you get nervous at all, or did you get nervous at all?
yeah, of course.
Yeah, somebody's trying to take your head off.
Like
There's gotta
you're
be some
just
nerves.
like, to me, I would just like.
Well, I ask only because I mean,
Everybody's different.
yeah,
I get it.
like
Like I like you feel I don't it's like a stir of for me a stir of emotions until I'm in there, and then like it's weird, it's like a weird calm kind of goes over you, and then you feel like you're back at the gym sort of in a way.
Because it's what you do.
Yeah, and then but it's like everything that builds up to that point
Mhm.
kind of makes you're like I said, it's a stir of emotions. It's not 100% like you're totally nervous or this, that, or the other. It's like everything.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like your mind's playing things out, and you're like for me, like I would try to like think about like escaping bad positions, or if this happens, like kind of playing the fight out and just sort of visualizing.
And
a
they say
lot.
that's super important.
Yeah, and then I think there were a few times where I just would kind of like try to keep myself distracted or whatever, and then
I like asking people that because I know everybody has like a different answer, like or like their background too, as far as like I'll give you a perfect example. So like we're pretty good friends with Henry Corrales, and
Mhm.
I've known that dude outside of training, for a long time too. and I know he was always like a really scrappy dude. Like he was always getting into trouble.
Yeah.
So when he started fighting, he was just like, it was just like a walk in the park for him. And I asked him one time, I'm like, do you get nervous at all? And he's like, no. I'm like really? Like you have like no, like, no, you feel nothing?
No butterflies?
He's like, no. He's like, I don't feel. And he's like, dude. And I remember he told me one time, and we were both working at the time, and he's like, dude. He's like, you know. He's like, you know. He's like, I've been stabbed. I've gotten in a fight. I've had like bottles broken on me. You know. He's like, I've been jumped. And he's like, dude, when it's like, when you're in there, he's like, it's just you and the other dude, and he doesn't have a gun, he doesn't have a knife, his homies aren't going to jump in, and he's like, that's it. And I'm like,
that makes sense.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you know. So I don't know.
Experience
Everybody
is a good
has,
teacher.
you know. I mean, obviously, not everybody, gets into trouble.
No, and you bring up a valid point. So I wonder if that's something that people even bring forward. If you never get past those butterflies, if it's something that's part of your ritual, some people are able to harness fear and turn it into good positive energy and bring a good fight.
Well, I have to admit, like,
other people collapse.
Like I remember him telling me that specifically, and you know, like, I felt pretty good. You know, I didn't feel overly nervous like leading up to there. I feel like I got maybe a little bit nervous. Like okay, so like, you know, you start warming up, whatever, and I was like the second fight, and I'm like, it'll drag out or whatever, it'll be cool. And they're like, all right, dude, you're up. This dude just got knocked out. I'm like, what the fuck, you know? I was like, okay.
There's no time on
I'm
fights.
not ready.
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
know,
ready.
can I get like 10 more minutes, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Get my walkout song.
So then, like, but like you said, like once you get in there, and like I felt like it all just like I didn't give a shit no more. Like I just
like a calm goes
whatever,
over you.
you know?
You're ready to go.
Yeah. But the thing that does suck though is the adrenaline dump.
I would have thought the only thing that bugs is that everybody's watching you, because I can only speak because I know Miguel very well, that you were well prepared for that fight. It could have happened even earlier. You were ready. You know, I don't think anybody could argue that point, and clearly you walked out of there pretty clean. You know what I mean? And you did your job very good. But I guess if I were to look back and think of any advice that anybody could give you, and I hope that somebody said, is just do you. And I think people did say that because we were so confident in who you were as your friends and your training partners. Just do you, man. Just go do it.
Yeah.
Nobody thought
it.
Nobody
that I remember.
We didn't think the outcome would be any different. Like, just do you. Just remember that. Don't get nervous back there.
But that was like actually the other thing that like kind of, I guess, made me nervous the most was just like, I'm like, dude, there's like people are watching.
Oh, my
this,
friends,
you know?
my instructor, you know, that'll get to you.
And
Did you feel that way like when you got in there too?
No.
Or that's how
it just disappeared.
Like, once you, and I don't know for everybody, but like for me, like once like you were just in there, it was like everybody just went away.
Well, even for example, like
you
now,
can-
like
you can
it's
hear
hard for me to
people,
like
but-
talk in the mic, like, oh yeah, you know what I mean, like. And I like even like going to school, I was never like the kid who would like to go to the front of the class and be like, "This is my project" or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, just pick me last, or you know, whatever.
You're the guy that's like this.
Yeah, I was just kind of
won't
like,
see me.
yeah,
Don't call
you know.
me.
So I was like, there's people out there, and I'm like, oh, whatever. But no, it all just like disappeared. Like, you know, once, you know, the dude I thought was pretty cool, but you know, once you like lock eyes, and you're like, all right, dude,
you're in the moment.
So,
you know what I mean? Like,
you know what was pretty awesome is anytime I competed in a jiu-jitsu tournament after I had fought MMA, I was like, this is so great.
Flag football.
You know, because you would just go and like, it was.
Is that right or
it was
no?
awesome because,
yeah.
you know, when I first went to my first tournaments and I first started competing in jiu-jitsu, I would get nervous and I would be like, you know, like ridiculously nervous. All to me, it's just so silly.
It's part of it.
No, it is.
Then you go and you fight in a cage.
I mean, I always
and
thought,
then you do a jiu-jitsu tournament again, and you're like, this is fucking so.
We
like,
come from a typical fight
nothing.
school where most people don't do tournaments. Everybody fought. So I watched my instructor and Miguel and a handful of professional fighters that came out of there. Henry Corrales, Frank, Tommy. So they go and they get, you know, they put it on the line, and we've all kind of lived it with them, went through fight camps and did the whole thing. So when it came my turn to do a tournament, because I, you know, a little bit older than everybody else, you know, so I weighed the whole day, you know, my weight class and my age group and my belt, and you know, and like, Mr. Arredondo, there's nobody in your age group, but there's this guy, he's, you know, like 36, Oh, okay, cool. I'll take him. Well, he's 6 foot tall. Well, that's okay. I'll take him. Well, he outweighs you about by 30 pounds. That's okay. I waited all day because in my mind, they've all done this. That's like the story of our dojo is that, they came to fight and it didn't matter if the guy made weight. It didn't matter if they switched opponents on them. They all did it. So in my mind, I was like, yeah, okay, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm here to
Then
fight.
my instructor grabs me by the shoulder. She goes, you don't have to do this. I'm like, bring the band. We got this. You know what I mean? Not a butterfly in sight. And he proceeded to pick me up, drop me on the back, nearly tear my arm off. So I was outgunned. He asked me afterwards, did it feel like you were in a tunnel? And I imagine that's what some people.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I was outgunned, dude. There's no tunnel. In fact, I want to go revisit that whole thing. You play it back in your mind. So, yes, I mean, some people do get nervous at tournaments. Other people realize, this is what we do, right?
Yeah.
We train really hard for it. And
for sure.
And it depends on the person. And I think when you back someone up into a corner, that's when you find out who they really are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's for sure, dude. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, that's for sure.
Until you know.
Like you said, dude, our most of our school was like a fight school, so like
it's all
almost nobody did those kind of
tournaments
and stuff. Yeah, so I was influenced by the guys who fought before me. Like I would see their fights, I'd go and I'm like, dude, these guys are like just animals.
Yeah,
you
went
like,
right into the deep end before you.
Yeah,
my school is a little different. It was like more jiu-jitsu competition based. So.
Yeah.
But it's almost like fighting is sort of like, I mean, not taking anything away from like grappling tournaments or anything, but it's like the pinnacle of of
it's the start of the show
you know
now.
What I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
No, I agree 100% because what are we doing? This is all fight training at the end of the day, and jiu-jitsu should be fight based.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It should lead to strikes. It should open people up to be grounded and pounded. And yes, I understand you don't do that in tournaments. You're using only your technique. However, you shouldn't expose yourself. You shouldn't be grabbing ankles when you're going to get kicked in the teeth.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, like I said, but like Henry's words always stuck with me a lot, like because
Well, yeah, he's went the farthest out of most people we know.
Yeah,
so
for
absolutely, he's a place of.
But I mean, only because
you know,
I've been in his situations too, in the sense that like before that, right? Like you were saying, I would just try to like relax and like chill out, and I was like, dude, I've been like jumped before. I've been cracked by a bat. I'm like, what is the worst this dude seriously can do to me? Like,
right.
Like nothing. You know what I mean? I'm like.
I broke both arms. I broke this fist. I got stabbed. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
I've had issues.
I used to think like
no, really.
of all of my training partners, because they were all a lot bigger. They were all dudes.
Yeah.
Like, man, if I can take hits from these guys, and I can do this, and this. Like,
I don't
there's
think you're
no
wrong.
way that this girl's gonna put me down. Like, no way. Like,
that's a good train of thought. I think
I can pull through whatever she's got to put out because I've taken a lot worse, like in practice, and like I've put my body through hell, and she's not going to bring me anywhere near that.
I think it's so important what you're saying, in that you have to believe that. You don't go in there second guessing.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Don't go into war without your bullets.
I've it's not a fun. It's just a quick story, real quick. But the reason I actually started training was like, I started. I think I want to say it was just before a lot of this whole MMA thing kind of took off.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to get like in a lot of stupid shit with like people. And I remember I was like walking
story
home
of my
one
life.
night.
Hothead over here.
I was like walking home one night, and I see this car full of dudes, and like they had their heads sticking out the windows, and like we locked eyes, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, fuck. And then like I'm like, oh, maybe they didn't see me. And then sure enough, there's I'm walking by this park, and then I just see their truck go and like pull a right and like to go into the street where the main entrance to the park is on. And here I am trying to cut through the park, thinking I'm just going to lose them. And then I'm like, oh, fuck. Right? So then they get out, and they're like, hey, asshole, and I'm like, oh, what's up, fellas, And one of them has, like, a bat, and I'm, like, not really thinking it. I'm like, all right, whatever, I'm like, everyone takes an ass kicking. It's all good, Now's my time. All right. I'm like, what are you guys going to do? I'm like,
you went down
whatever.
like a man.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever, And then the next thing I know is just like, bam. And then I came to. And I was like on the floor, and I'm like, oh, I have a headache. And there's nobody there, and it's like dead quiet, and it's, and then I get up, and I get my shit, and I look at my shirt. I had a white shirt on, and it was covered in blood.
Nice.
Like completely covered in blood. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I walked the rest of the way home, and I didn't go in the front door because I'm like, if I wake up my folks, if I wake up my mom, she's going to like lose her shit.
She's going to call 911.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right. So I crawled in through my window. And I take my phone. These are the flip phones, right? Because it's a while back. And I put an alarm on there for every hour to wake me up. And I just went to sleep. That would take
not a good thing when you take a headshot.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like I put it
just
like
in case you had
yeah.
a concussion.
So
yeah, you might not wake up.
Yeah. You might not
so
hear
the
that
next
alarm.
day, I'm like walking down the street, and then this dude pulls up next to me, and he's like, "Hey, man," and I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Hey, you know, that was some chicken shit last night. So some of those dudes hit you with a bat," and I'm like, "Oh, thanks for you know,
for watching,
thanks for stepping in,
or something like that."
Like what the
and
hell?
he's like, "Well, I had my kid, and we're going home." And
great,
you know. And I'm like,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
so
yeah.
he's an adult.
Yeah.
He has a kid.
So yeah, you know. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Can't
yeah,
imagine
thanks.
not stepping in.
So he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "You know, here, take this," and he gives me this card, and I'm like, "What's this?" And he's like, "You want to learn to fuck those dudes up at the same time?" And I'm like, "Sure." And he's like, just go here," and I'm like, "Okay, thanks." And he takes off, and I look, and I'm like, "What the hell is jujitsu, right?"
And who's this De Lau fellow?
Yeah. I'm like, what is this? So I go home, and I'm like, all right, I gotta look this up. So I go online, and then the first thing that pops up is a picture of John De La O back in his like King of the Cage days, and he's like in front of a cage. I'm like, is that what jujitsu is? I'm like, holy shit,
I want to
dude.
be him.
Yeah, I was like,
He was
shit.
like Superman back in the day.
No, really. And then I met all of his students, like his
And they were like
top dogs
Superman
at the time, and I'm like,
action
whoa.
figures.
Yeah, like I mean, these guys were like on another level.
Nice.
You know, when it came.
Yeah. No, you're
That's
absolutely. I
cool.
felt that same thing. Robert and I had walked in, and we had went to some other schools, and the lineup and bow, and everybody's doing their thing. They're very family oriented. Get a lot of that back then.
Oh yeah.
But I said, no, that's not for me. I'm not spending money on that. He said, oh, I want no one other place. So we ended up in De Lo's, and we walk up, and of course we got the typical greeting. The hell do you want? So
Actually,
hell do you
no, I
want?
missed that
Are
part.
you
Yeah, so
serious?
I walk in, right, and they had just gotten. I think at the time, there was like two guys getting ready to fight, and they're all tired, and you can tell they're like, you know, working out hard, and they're out of it. And I walk in, and Delo's like, he looks at me, and he's like, yes, and I'm like, hey, some guy gave me your card. He told me to come check this out, and he's like, well, class is over. And I'm like, okay, and he's like, so you're gonna have to come back when there's class. I'm like, so when is there class? He's like, well, if you flip the card around, it has the schedule on it. And I'm like, oh, you know,
typical,
yeah.
typical. I
And I'm
heard
like,
him say it.
Okay. And he's like, so
Well, it's a two-sided card.
yeah, he's like,
you got
there's-
money.
So I'm like, he's like, you know, there's class later tonight if you know, if you're serious. And I'm like, okay, well, guess we'll see you later. And he didn't even say bye. He's like, but just turns around, walks away. And I'm like walking back to my car. I'm like, what an asshole. And I'm like, whatever. I'm not gonna pay attention to this. And then I ended up going back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He,
you know,
he probably
and
said, hell, you're here.
he did actually.
Or-
He's like, oh, I didn't think you were gonna come back. And
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks. But
And
you
that's
know,
how you got the
pretty much because I
That's
mean,
how you
like
got
he
the
said,
bug.
I did check out other places that they were like, oh, hey man, how you doing? Which don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, you don't be
Yeah.
an asshole to everybody, but
No.
still, like I felt like at least he was more genuine.
Well, I
than most
walked
of the other
in.
Like more
places.
real,
More real,
authentic.
Yeah.
I walked in, and none of the other places had a cage. Our guys were already going at it in the cage when I walked in.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh.
right.
Then
yeah.
there was a boxing ring, and then there were people grappling. That's what I saw when
You're
I walked
like,
in. I went,
"Ooh."
so I was enticed. I actually thought I was tough, and with the Hawaiian who was actually in shape then. So we'd already been in lots of scraps. We're grown men. We've already done our thing, so we thought we had skills. It didn't take just a few minutes to find out we had nothing.
You were
Because he said, "What do you want?" And well, we came to fight, came to learn how to fight. He's like, "Why don't you put those gloves on?" And he puts a 4x4 of a woman in front of me, and she puts her hands up and throws her foot up and just.
boom.
And I got my hands back up and I look and I go, which one y'all just did that? You know what I
a
mean?
4x4.
And I couldn't believe that she had connected, and I thought it was a fluke. I thought I wasn't in the moment. I certainly was just giving her a moment to warm up, and she took advantage of me. So I throw a combo, and the same thing happens on the other side. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna get ugly because it's gonna go on for a while. You know, we got.
She's
got
gonna
a few-
beat my ass.
Yeah, I realize now that the 4x4 is gonna pounce me, and she did. She beat me up a little bit, and I was out of breath and tired and sick, and it was a 3-minute round. you know.
Like, I'd be lying if I said that, like, the posters on the wall and all their pictures that they put
Yeah.
up, like, of them, like, in their fights, like, didn't really grab my attention.
Yeah, that's
But
exactly.
that wasn't really my initial reason for walking in there.
That wasn't my
Yeah.
reason, but I certainly knew
Yeah.
that people knew what they were doing. And then when I got beat by her, I was like, oh, I guess I need to come here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he threw me on the ground with Tom, and he, you know, he's already almost a black belt, I think, at that time, if he wasn't
Yeah,
already.
he was,
He
yeah.
And
put
he-
you into a pretzel and you're
Whoa,
like,
what do you do when you got a black belt
shit.
on top? You've never done jujitsu. Actually, I didn't even wrestle other than
No,
horsing
the
around.
fact that they just, like,
Took my
put,
breath
like,
away.
our weight on us,
Yeah.
and that's all they did, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
I could tap
Yeah.
just from cross-side.
Mm-hmm.
Put you in proper cross-side, you're done. Your breath is done. So you
Yeah, of
know you got to
course.
learn. So I gave him $600. I go, I'll be back every month or every day for 6 months. He's like, don't come every day. You'll burn out. But come as often as you want.
yeah.
Because we were a 5-day-a-week school then, 6-day-a-week
Yeah,
school.
something like that.
So I came a lot. And then at the end of that 6 months, I realized that I had a lot more to go. And then so on and so forth. And years later. And you're just at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
You're always just at the
You're
beginning.
always just learning.
You know?
Yeah,
It's
pretty
crazy.
much. And
And-
even, like, after, I don't know, that's the other thing. I me personally, I've just never been big on, like, belts, you know? It's
Yeah. But you've done it. Regardless of whether
Well,
you...
well, anyways, my point was, though, is that, like, you don't just get, like, a black belt. Like, there's, like,
That is just the beginning,
you know,
dude.
a
Yeah.
whole
Say it.
thing left after. I don't know how to explain it.
Well,
you
I can
know?
tell you this, in that if that is your final goal, it's achievable. I mean, it maybe 10 years ago there weren't as many, and a black belt was a thing, but now they've been hounded out like there's so many.
It takes
Yeah.
5 years at some places.
That's
Yeah.
if that's
They're
your
like,
accomplishment,
huh?
then you
I've
really
been
need to
training
push.
for like 11 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, and that's so true.
That's crazy because my gym that I started at, there's some people there that have got their black belt and stuff like that, and I started training like 3 years before them.
Yeah.
2 years before them, and I'm
So,
like, they got their black belt like a couple years ago, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what the?
not to take away from
But-
anyone legitimate, but there's just an abundance of people that have it that even the Gracies themselves have said, what do they do when they take a punch? Because
Yeah.
maybe they're not training in those other skills that we need as
True.
jiu-jitsu people.
Like
They-
everyone has a plan
right?
until
Yeah.
they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
because
No,
there are
that's true,
schools that
yeah.
are dedicated just to the tournament style.
Yeah,
You know what I
of
mean?
course. That's,
And people
yeah.
are getting black belted, and some people don't ever put on a gi now that are considered black belts. So there's a whole other topic that we can discuss, but it exists, and it just makes you wonder. You know, it maybe doesn't mean as much as it once did. So I can understand your perspective, and I'm not really into it. I want to push
Yeah,
myself
I mean,
as
it's
far as
just,
I can go,
you know,
and that it's
yeah.
There's
what I
always
know.
something else, though. There's always like more stuff to learn. Like I don't think.
No,
like,
exactly.
Once
yeah,
you
like,
achieve that, like that's still just the beginning.
there's like a whole other
It
like
sure is.
new yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're just opened up to learn,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because now you
Absolutely.
know how to learn.
Exactly. That's a really good like.
But
That's
even
that's
now,
how
like-
I feel about it now. Is now,
Yeah.
oh well, I know how to learn. I know how to be told what to do.
But even
Yeah.
like you were
You
saying,
know?
like even after you like achieve it, like you can't just stop there. Like,
And
No
some
way.
people
No
do.
way,
They
dude.
rest on their laurels, and that's it, right? That's what I did. That's the pinnacle for some people. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
No, you're
And
right.
I get it. If you're older and you did it as hard as you could, and the body don't work anymore, and you got brand new hips and legs and
Yeah.
mechanical functions, it happens. I get it. You can't do it anymore. You can't do it forever, but you can certainly try.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're not going to test it in some capacity, then you really got to ask yourself, what am I doing? In my opinion.
No, I agree. I think so.
You know?
Yeah. For
You
sure.
can't sit there and read a bunch of recipes and not try to cook.
Yeah. that's
Someday
true.
you got to put it to the
Word.
test, right?
Yeah.
No, I
So
totally
those are the people that I question. You know, and they should
That's-
question themselves.
Like I'm a firm believer that everybody should try to fight at least once, or compete in some
agree. Yeah,
sort
even
of
compete. Yeah.
I like-
something.
I like that you
at
said
least
that.
one time.
I think that everybody should stand for something, right?
Yeah. Like
Because then
if-
what are you doing, right? If you don't stand up for what you believe, at some point, someone's going to challenge you,
Mhm.
whether it be verbal or physical,
Pretty
right?
much.
And
you
you
know?
find that same personality exists,
Yeah.
right?
No, I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, I can understand not wanting to fight because not
Yeah.
everybody like.
But
is
or
just-
even like for instance I always tell the ladies in my class, like, even though you may not want to step into the octagon, it would be very valuable for you to learn
Yeah.
MMA because it's the most realistic form of self-defense. Yes, jiu-jitsu is a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you going to do if somebody's trying to, punch you and pick you up and throw you and then take you to the ground and throw more punches at you to try to hurt you. You need to, learn that. And that's why I'm like, I always tell them, like, at least do the class where you can learn how to spar, learn how it feels to get hit under control.
Yeah.
And
Learn how to roll the gloves.
In a controlled environment. That way, God forbid that does happen to you, you aren't like a deer in the headlight with no, like, your fight or flight. You get that flight.
Or at least your instincts, if you would. Your training kicks in. Because, regardless, I don't think you're never, like...
Your reaction is more... you're more likely to react the proper way than to, like, let somebody just beat the crap out of you.
No, for sure.
Well, I could see it in the street. Somebody jumps guard, pulls you back, knocks themselves out because they fall on concrete. Yeah. You can't do that.
Well, even at that, if, like, you're walking down the street, someone throws a brick at you or something, you're like, what the fuck, and then, like, they're rushing, and it's like, at least you have, like, some, maybe, hopefully your training will kind of kick in. And
I think what happens, and I could be totally off on this, but because you're trained in multiple ways, whether it be Muay Thai, boxing, jiu-jitsu, sambo, judo, whatever it is, your situational awareness is something, especially if you train in close quarters.
Yeah.
If you have a dojo that's got space for 15 people and there's 20 packed in there, we're rolling on top of each other, I don't know that I'd call it Jedi sense, but you learn distance, okay? Yeah. So you're certainly aware of your surroundings, and you're still trying to accomplish something at a high level.
Yep.
So you become more aware of your surroundings through that kind of training,
For sure.
So I think that does help. But, I think that kind of concludes where we're at tonight. This has been the very first and a very cool first Gym Crashers Live with me, Miguel, and Maria now doing this. So it's Wednesday. It is next week, 8 p.m., that we'll see you once again for the live show, coming at you with the Gym Crashers show in your own place of training as well. So please feel free to hit us up.
We got a cool list of cool places to hit up.
And we're going to talk about that too. Absolutely. Yeah. So, feel free to chime in. Talk to us on the show on Facebook Live. If you'd like to call in, get our number. We can talk to Robert, and we will put our information out there. So thank you for viewing, and we'll see you next week at 8 p.m.
Yep.
Thank you, Maria and Miguel. Peace.
Thank you guys for hanging out.